And the Privacy Office is just one element of the oversight of intelligence agencies and other government agencies. How well did your office work with the other components, inspectors general, and particularly congressional oversight? Did they look at you as an ally?
So it's an interesting question. We did not work with IGs all that much. They were somewhat separate. There were a couple times where I actually investigated the inspector general because they had a data breach where they didn't follow DHS policy, and they inspected themselves, and then I layered on it a privacy review of what the privacy concerns were. And there were a couple other times where we worked with the IG on stuff, but not that often. The IG pretty much stands alone. At Homeland Security, the Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, we worked with very closely. And for example, CRCL would help do those reviews of intelligence reports that I mentioned earlier. So it was the two of us along with the Office of General Counsel who would review the products before they would go out. With regard to congressional oversight, it's an interesting question because, as you know, Homeland Security has whatever it is, 120 different committees and subcommittees that it reports to. And from my perspective, as the privacy officer, I was brought onto the Hill every 2 months saying, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? From the privacy people. In a similar vein, the intelligence committees wanted nothing to do with me. They had no interest in talking to me. And in fact, there were several times during my tenure that the House Intelligence Committee and the Senate Homeland Intelligence Committee brought intelligence and analysis from Homeland Security down and said, why are you guys delaying information sharing? I hear from the intelligence community that you're delaying information sharing and that you are grossly negligent in your information sharing responsibilities. Why is that? The answer to that was because we had been working on an agreement and because we had been worried about the privacy protections. And the answer was the intelligence community elements just went and complained to the Hill. And so the Hill would go and say, why are you doing that? Don't you, are you a terrorist? Are you aiding and abetting terrorists? So my point on that is each subsection of congressional oversight thought their section was the most important.
Of course.
And so therefore, why are you not doing more on privacy? Why are you doing too much on privacy were the questions we were getting on the Hill pretty much monthly.
And did you feel like the reports that your office produced were relied on, or was that?
Well, there are a lot of reports that are statutorily required. Nobody ever read those. I mean, they wouldn't admit as much to us.
Right, of course.
Or they would say, oh, your Section 803 report, which is about basically privacy incidents when you did disclosures and stuff, it's better written now. Okay, thank you.
Right.
But there was a lot of those kind of statutorily required reports that I think weren't all that useful. I tried to make our annual report a really substantive piece. That may have gotten a little out of hand, but trying to be transparent and trying to have more disclosures. And I think that some of my investigations, I mentioned the Inspector General investigation, I think that was well received. The DHS privacy officer is the only officer within the federal government, only privacy officer within the federal government who has independent investigatory authority. And that actually helped me a lot.
And would that be something you would recommend the other privacy officers get?
Absolutely. I would absolutely do it. I didn't use it often. I used it 3 times because it's hard to invest a lot of investigations. Sure. But I tell you what, each time I used it, I was right. And each time I used it, it fundamentally changed the way the department was doing stuff. One was on, as I said, data breaches. One was on on use of social media. And we had a management directive that was derived out of that. And the third one was related to misuse of information by the Customs and Border Protection Internal Affairs officer, which has subsequently been removed from his job. So it was all judicious use of the authority, but just having that, sword helped people say, well, why should I help you? Why should I talk to you? Well, because I can demand whatever information is necessary.
You mentioned